Good day to you. Joshua here. If you're not back with us, I say this every time, but if you're not back with us, we're still missing you. I'm still missing you. And I look forward to when all of us, we can be back together again. Morgan and I got married almost a year ago. We've been married a little over 11 months. And once we got married, we came up here, and our guest room is pretty much just the catch-all room. So a lot of our wedding gifts, a lot of our just extra stuff is in our guest room. So it's packed under the bed, and in the corners we have boxes stacked up of just all kinds of different stuff. And after we got married, we went on our honeymoon, and then while we were gone, Morgan's parents boxed up some of our stuff from the wedding, our gifts, cards, anything like that. And then at Christmas time, this past year, we went back and got that and brought it to the guest room. And it made it to the guest room, and, it made it to the pile of boxes, okay? So this past week, we were going through those boxes and trying to consolidate and maybe, get rid of some stuff that we didn't need. And we come across this huge Ziploc bag full of cards. And in it were cards from the wedding. Everybody that brought us a card on our wedding day, we realized that we hadn't opened them, that those were in the box. And it was really good for us to be able to go through those and read those messages that people had said to us, and wishing us the best, and that they were praying for us and thinking of us. There were probably between 30 and 40 cards that we hadn't seen and that we hadn't, been able to go through. So here at almost a year of marriage, it was a good reminder of that day, and it was a good reminder of the people that love us. And in those cards were lots of gift cards and money and all kinds of things. So happy 1-year anniversary to us. It was really good. And it made me think of where we were a year ago, where the world was a year ago, where the Leoma Church of Christ was a year ago. And a lot of things have changed since then. I usually give challenges at the end, but my first challenge for this lesson is for you to think about this past year and think about how things have changed, and think about you and your relationships, how they've changed, if they've gotten better or gotten worse, and your relationship with God, if it's gotten better or if it's gotten worse. Have you ever been careless about something? Been careless about anything? I think about the big buck, the big 8-point or 10-point that's just hard to find. He's usually not that hard to find when it's rutting time. Okay, when he's looking for some ladies and they're wanting to be around each other, he becomes careless. And he doesn't stay to himself, and he doesn't stay deep in the woods like he usually does. He gets careless, and he comes out, and that's when people usually get him. I think of a time when I was careless. I was probably 5 years old, and we had an electric fence around our front yard, and it was just tall enough for me to straddle and get over. And I remember one time I was helping my daddy with something, and I was careless, and I went to straddle the fence, and it zapped me. It got me pretty good. And from then on, I wasn't careless when I was trying to straddle the electric fence. When I think of someone being careless in the Bible, I go to Genesis chapter 25. Genesis chapter 25. We're going to be looking at verses 29 through 34. But before we get to that, I want to start in verse 19 to get the context of who we're talking about and what we're talking about. So I'm going to start in Genesis chapter 25 and verse 19. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramean, to be his wife. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah his wife conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it is thus, why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said to her, "2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger." When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak, so they called him Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand holding on to Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. Verse 27, when the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man, dwelling in the tents. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. So, we have Isaac and Rebekah giving birth to Esau and Jacob. We read here that Esau was a man's man. Esau was a man of the field, a skillful hunter. He went out and did the man's man stuff, while Jacob was a quiet man, dwelling in the tents. So Jacob didn't go outside much. He stayed in the tents, probably doing housework with his mother, Rebekah. And I think it's interesting here, verse 28, Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And I think of this and how, Isaac had his favorite of Esau, and Rebekah had her favorite of Jacob. And I'm really glad that my parents, or at least to my knowledge, they might have and not told us, but my parents never said either me or my sister were the favorite. They treated us equally. They treated us the same. And here it says that Isaac loved Esau because of what he did, because he was a good hunter and brought in good food. But Rebekah, I'm assuming because he was dwelling in the tents with her, loved Jacob. They had favorites. And in my mind, playing favorites with children is a good start to a dysfunctional family. A good start to maybe the siblings not liking each other or taking advantage of each other. And that brings us to verse 29. Once when Jacob was cooking stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of the red stew, for I am exhausted." Therefore his name is called Edom. So, Jacob is at home, cooking, making stew. Esau was out in the field, probably hunting, and he came in and he was exhausted. And he said, "Hey, can I have some of that red stew?" And in parentheses, therefore his name is called Edom. Edom is another word for red, talking about his red skin and the red stew. He was called Edom. It was to remind him of this moment, remind him of the red stew that he ate. Verse 31, Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright now." Esau said, "I am about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me now." So he swore to him and sold him his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. I think of Esau here, and I don't know how exhausted he was. I don't know really how close he was to death. But I would hope if he was really dying of heat stroke or in a situation like that, he was in a point to where he could speak and he was cognitive and he could have a conversation. I think of Esau and how very careless he was in this moment. Esau was a hunter, so he would spend time tracking animals and knowing their movements and knowing what they did. He was very careful of that, I'm sure. He was a good hunter. But here we see the hunter being the hunted, in the sense that Jacob was waiting, and Jacob was setting a trap for him, and the bait was the stew. And Esau was influenced. Esau was influenced by his hunger, by his situation in life. So his influence and his carelessness caused him to lose his birthright. And I think of Christians today and how sometimes we have stress in life, or there are situations in life that are influencing us. Like he was hungry. It might be finances. It might be a relationship with someone. It might be our jobs. But those are influencing us where we are in life. And I see Satan setting the trap. I see Satan setting up some bait, just like Jacob had the stew. And I think of so many times Christians, because they're influenced, because where they are in life, and they see the bait, they become careless, and they act rashly, and they don't think about the consequences of their actions. If Esau would have thought about his actions, a bowl of stew, a bowl, versus his whole birthright as the firstborn, his inheritance. If he wouldn't have been so careless, if he would have just thought about it and not acted so rashly, I'm sure he would have told himself, no, a bowl of stew is not worth my birthright. But in reality, he did. And I think Christians do that so many times today. We think we're doing well or we're going on in life, and Satan is setting a trap, and then something happens, and then we go to the bait because we're very careless, and we don't think about repercussions, and we don't think about the big picture. Because how hungry he was, that bowl of stew was right here in his face. That's all he could see. He couldn't see past his hunger. He couldn't see past the bowl of stew. And sometimes Christians and myself, all I can see is what's right here in front of me. That's all I'm focusing on, instead of seeing the big picture. So, thinking about how careless we can be sometimes, I have some challenges for us today. Number one, I want you to think about yourself. I want you to think about the past and how Satan has used bait against you, or how he's used bait against me. I want you to think of certain instances where you can say, you know what, I saw him setting the trap, and I avoided it. And I also want you to think of times where you didn't see the trap. You couldn't see past whatever your bowl of stew was. You couldn't see the trap, and you walked right in it, and it got you. I want you to think about those things. And think about, is Satan setting a trap for you right now? And if so, how could he be? What would he be doing? And number two, as a Christian, I often see other people, and I see Satan laying a trap for them. I can see it. And we all know people like that who are in situations in life where they're stressed, or all they can see is what's right in front of them. They can't see the big picture. And we see Satan laying the trap. And too often I choose not to say anything to them. Too often I choose not to do anything. So my challenge for you and my challenge for myself is to tell them, to say, hey, I know that you don't see it. And that's okay. I've had moments where I don't see the trap myself, but I see this trap that Satan is laying for you, and you are walking right to it, towards it. And I think of times in my life when I've fallen into Satan's traps, and how I wish people would have let me know. I wish people would have given me a heads up, say, hey, you're not going the right direction. You need to stop and see the big picture. So my challenge for us today is, if you know someone that's doing that, to tell them about it. And to look at ourselves and see if any traps are being laid for us right now. But that's my thought for today. I am thankful that you tuned in and that you made the conscious choice to try to take this moment to learn about God, to learn about yourself and your relationship with God. And I'm thankful that there are people in the world like you that take their time to be closer to God. So, again, if you ever need anything, call me, let me know. Call the elders, let them know, because I know that all of us are wanting to do anything we can for you. We love you, I love you, and I hope you have a great day.